Yes.
Oh,
Thank you for,
No, this is, it's awesome. So
Anyone
thank you.
there?
thank you for
Will they show?
If I do this,
being you.
only one.
It's like,
That's
I
okay.
thought about that last night when I left
There's
the cars.
there is
It's all over
someone.
your signs. I'm like,
I
this
like
is,
that.
this is good.
Like
for-
someone.
I think so.
Oh, no, even we might disagree on things. I still think,
I haven't had
Oh,
anybody.
of course.
What?
Dana Mulder.
You have someone.
Oh, well, I thought she said she was.
It's okay. You know, I was saying, and I'll repeat it, but we're gonna record this, and then so if somebody wants to learn more and watch, and so that's okay. Watch out, kids. It's gonna get lively.
there was a $20 cover. $20 for the fun. Good to see you guys. Yes, that was good.
Well, you guys can sit in the front, so it feels at least a little more, yeah.
We put chairs up
We
closer.
moved them closer. I feel like I should be closer too, but at least I'm losing my voice.
Wonder why.
I'm trying.
A week.
I was gonna
I
say.
know. What a couple of
On
weeks.
the way over here.
This morning, I said, oh, this is great. We have an evening at home. And I looked at my calendar, I went, no, I have no idea.
I know the feeling now.
It's okay. All right,
Good luck.
good
Thank
luck.
you.
I think they're good. We do have one participant, or is that you?
That's the city's.
Oh, well. Well, that's okay. We'll keep it really informal. No, we'll keep it really informal, and then people who want to watch it
Yeah.
can watch, and we'll be able to put on social media the link, so people can learn more about you in a different way. So that's what we're doing. We're providing that. So do you guys want to get started?
Can you clean up our faces or at least mine a little bit?
I don't- If I was gonna,
Photoshop. or-
if I was gonna Photoshop anything, believe me.
Whoops, I guess
So-
the chair is not going up.
Shine
not
from
going
the
up.
head.
Sit up.
Okay. So I can probably throw away most of what I wrote down then. Well, welcome. This is a great opportunity for those who are here, but then also those who stream and will watch this to learn more about the two of you. I know many people in town know both of you, but don't, and they know you in different capacities. And so I think this is a great opportunity for you to just let people know a little bit about you. And so that's what we're gonna do tonight. I'm Bonnie Culp. For those who don't know who I am, I'm the executive director of the Harbor Springs Chamber. I sometimes forget to introduce myself, so I will make sure I do that. So we are going to start tonight. Michael and Kathy. Kathy, if you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
This is Kathy Motchel. My husband and I moved to Northern Michigan in 1987 and have been in Harbor Springs since 2011. We came here from Arizona, and most of that time we've lived in Petoskey or Harbor, and though we did 10 years in Traverse City. I began working in Harbor Springs at Wallstrom as the CFO in 2011, and I retired in 2019. My husband passed away in 2020. Since retirement, which was exactly 4 years ago today, it turns out.
Congratulations.
I've been looking at meaningful ways to volunteer and my time, and have really been interested in how the city operates and learning more about it. My early attendance at city council meetings was for budget meetings, which were eye-opening, to say the least. Even in a small city like ours, the required accounting procedures for the different departments can be complicated. And this can make the numbers difficult to explain. I hope to be able to assist in making financial reporting more transparent. I am currently also the secretary of Petoskey Sunrise Rotary Club, and I prepare tax returns through the Petoskey Friendship Center RSVP program during tax season. I've been involved in many professional organizations over the years and throughout my career.
Thanks, Kathy. Michael, if you'll introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the chamber for allowing the community to get to know us a little bit. We really appreciate the chamber putting this forum on. I'd also like to thank the city for allowing the chamber to host this in the city council chambers, and so thank you all very much. No, it's been a busy season to say the least, especially coming off of Harbor Stars last night. So I'm pretty new to the Harbor Springs area. My wife and I and our daughter Mindy, one of our daughters, Mindy, moved up to Harbor Springs about 5 years ago, a little bit over 5 years ago. We're all lifelong Michiganders. I accepted a position as the superintendent of Harbor Springs Public Schools. I've been also kind of a lifelong educator, spent 35 years as a teacher, a principal, central office administrator, then superintendent. Very quickly, we developed an affinity for this town of ours. We absolutely love it. My daughter works in town, or worked at Myers Ace for quite a while, and probably knows more people than I do. My wife Naomi has worked at a few local pet grooming studios, and now has opened up our own home business, grooming out of the home, right on our wonderful home on Harbor Street. We have two other daughters that live out of state, and we just hosted one for a week, then one left, and we hosted another for a week with their spouses. So if I look a little tired, I am. I currently work for the school district, so it was kind of a soft retirement 4 years after serving 4 years as a superintendent. I came back to work for the schools. I'm a regular bus driver for the district. I drive a regular route, sporting events and so forth. Work at Petoskey State Park during the summer. I volunteer for Festival of the Book. I coach Special Olympics Area 33, which is Emmett County, Charlevoix, Otsego, and Sheboygan County. Thank you very much. All of our practices are in Sheboygan, so I should know that. At any rate, I also volunteer for Harbor Springs Kiwanis Club. I really want to contribute to our city. I loved every aspect of my time as superintendent. Now it's time, I think, though, to take the next step and really give to the city. I have a passion for public service. I've got a lot to learn, and I'm willing to invest the time and do the very best I can for our residents here in Harbor Springs. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So thank you, Victor. Yeah, one of the first things that comes to mind when I think of the two of you, and I think we all thank you tremendously for deciding to run and wanting to get more engaged with the city. I really do appreciate that. What made you, and we'll go to Michael first this time, what made you decide to run and why now? I mean, you haven't been around long, so that explains a bit of it, but what made you decide to run?
Probably because I haven't been around long. I'm just kidding. You know, I see people always ask, you know, what's the greatest attribute of Harbor Springs? And you know what? After we sort everything out and really take a look at it, I say the people, the generosity of our folks is incredible. The creativity, just the potential, the upbeat attitude. You know, that is ultimately why I decided to run, because I'm a people person. And I just want to do the very best for our residents. Again, I love our city. We have so many other great attributes. But that notion of serving and working with incredible people, be they residents, businesses, fellow council members, city administration, city employees, nonprofits, other regional entities and governmental bodies, that excites me. And I don't have any type of agenda. That's not why I'm running, and I don't have any hardline positions. I have my perspectives and viewpoints, but ultimately I'm running to serve our community, and it's an awesome responsibility. And I don't take that for granted for one moment.
Kathy?
What was,
Yes,
Say that again.
absolutely. What made you decide to run and why now?
well, it seemed like if I was gonna do this, because I had friends talk to me about this a year or two ago, and I was like, no, don't think I'm ready to do this. But I've thought about it a lot, and I've been concerned about the tone that sometimes comes up in local discussions. And I feel like it's really easy to sit in the audience at these and be critical and comment and of whoever's sitting here making the decisions. So I thought it was time that I challenged myself to learn more about the issues, understand the issues better, and take on the responsibility of working through those. And I'm most concerned about dealing with people with respect and being treated with respect and civility. I've been concerned about what I hear about the, comments, letters many of us have gotten in the mail during elections. And I find that just so disturbing. So I'd like to, hope we can keep a tone that, no criticism to anybody who's serving now, but keep a tone that is respectful and civil, and hopefully get some problems solved.
Great. So that actually leads me to the next question. What would you, Kathy, consider to be, and maybe, it could be the most important problem that the city has, but what comes to mind when you think of the most important or a significant problem that the city has, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I feel like every time I read the agenda for a city council meeting, I learn that there's a problem I didn't know about. So sometimes that's hard to say. In terms of long-term, I am concerned about the housing issues and, housing for families that want to work here or have jobs here, and how far away they have to go and find a place to live. I think that's the biggest issue. But it's a long way from the only one. And I'm not certain. A lot of times my concern is I don't know how the city can't directly mandate how this is resolved. I think this is a community effort and combination of private enterprise and nonprofit organizations to solve.
Thank you. Michael?
I would agree that issues come and go, and some of those issues, short-term issues, can be some of the most divisive and controversial as well. So sometimes it's hard to think long-term when we're dealing with a lot of short-term issues that need to be fixed. But I think we continually have to be forward-thinking. We must take care of our infrastructure and ensure that it will last for generations to come in order for in order to add more housing in any kind of number, the city only has so much capacity, and we need to look at that. We need to ensure that we keep an eye on those goal areas and those 15 goals that are in the master plan. As we have to deal with the short-term issues that come and go. We absolutely have to. You can't just sweep them under a table, but at the same time, you have to keep at arm's length those issues such as the city's infrastructure, the long-term budget and economic vitality of the city. You have to keep those in sight in that master plan that was recently adopted in sight as well. I would agree that housing is not only a short-term issue, but also one of the long-term issues, and that's also been identified in the city's master plan. So
Very big one.
So to ask you, and this is a really broad question, but different departments within the city, to ask you, how do you think the city hired Victor about 4 years ago? And how do you think that has worked? And what are your thoughts on Victor, but how the city works, council and Victor, and all work together as a unit? What are your thoughts on that? It's very broad.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
How- how has that been? How has that been a good? And I
That's okay. No,
Yeah.
I'm happy to take a stab at
Yeah.
that first, if you would like. First of all, I look at it from a bird's eye view. I don't have, I'm relatively far from I'm making, close direct observations of council, of the city administration, the city manager. What I can tell you is my experience as a superintendent worked with Victor for approximately 2 years, I believe, maybe 3 years. Victor was an incredible partner to work with. He represented the city extremely well. He was, I've been told that the school and the city did not always have the best relationship. But I found Victor to be very straightforward, honest. He approached the school district with care and consideration. So those were my direct dealings with Victor, and I have very positive things to say about that. I also applaud the transparency that this city administration puts out. My gosh, everything is streamed. The notices that come to people on every single board or commission meeting, the opportunity for public comment. And I realize things get heated and so forth, but ultimately that starts with a vision. And I have no doubt in my mind that Victor came in with a vision to establish as much transparency as possible. That website is incredible. You can find almost anything on there, archived meetings, minutes. And again, the communication coming out. I get notices every week of meetings that are coming out with agenda packets. To me, that's a city manager doing his job. Does that mean that we agree on everything? Probably not. But I see somebody that is respectful, that is transparent, that is creative, that I believe has the city's best interest. And I see from, again, the outside looking in, a collaborative relationship with city council. Don't always agree, but it's collaborative and respectful, as it should be.
Thank you. Kathy.
Would you ask him? for
I'm asking for your opinion and views on how, on the relationship between city council and Victor and how that has all worked and how has that been for the city for the past 4 years?
I have to admit, until I started having specific issues and wanting to know about things, I didn't pay a lot of attention to city politics. And that was before Victor and even in the first year or so he was here. However, it's been very interesting to me to watch the interplay from going to lots and lots of city council meetings. And I've had a lot of questions about how those relationships work and how the council not just relates to Victor and to each other, but to the community. And it's been, I've certainly had times when I've thought I might run this meeting differently or something, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot. That's part of the being in the chief seats part, I think. But I've also been really happy with being able to talk to any of the council members as a citizen and ask questions and find out reasoning and get, input as to why they decided and, why a certain decision was made. And I found that just very helpful. And I had no idea that before Victor, there weren't 75 pages worth of documents that came out with the city council meetings. And so I think it's great that all the information is out there. And if I want to dig into something, it's there and I can do it. But I also feel that the city council hires Victor and the staff because those are the people that are here to do the work, do the job, make the day-to-day decision. And the council is more of an advisory, and an advisory kind of position.
I just want to piggyback on that a little bit too and add, my role as a superintendent was similar to Victor's role as city manager. I was the chief executive officer of a school district. I served a body of 7 elected officials, the Board of Education. So like Victor, preparing board packets, ensuring that our board members have great communication, but also that the city residents have great communication. And to me, Victor's a model for it. If I went back and for that aspect of the job, that communication and the transparency, if I was to be a superintendent again, I might do things a little bit differently. Again, don't always agree on things, but I've been pretty impressed overall with what I've seen.
Thank you. So Kathy, you actually touched on something that I have written down as a note is you weren't paying a whole lot of attention to what went on. And I think that that's not an uncommon thing here for any town, not just Harbor Springs. I know I never paid much attention till I moved here and now I do, and I can't even vote in town. But that said, what would you do? What would either one of you do to try to get more community involvement and get more, and I don't mean the dissemination of information because I do believe that there's a lot of dissemination, but how do you think we can get community more engaged? Not easy, but thoughts?
Well, I've mentioned in some of the things that I put out that I do want to be available and out, talking to people, asking questions, giving out information. But, and to be honest with you, it's a difficult question. People, because what I have noticed is the times that people get interested and come to meetings aren't necessarily the biggest, long-term, most important issues. And so how to pivot someone's interest in that to the other things that the city's doing that are the really hard, long-term work. It's getting that spark. I don't always know. But it's something I would like to work on and think about some more and chat with Victor some. I mean, it's been because my first dealings with the city were many years ago when I was still at Wallstrom, and those were specific issues. They were like a violation of, a sign ordinance, sign in the wrong place or something. So it wasn't necessarily from it wasn't unfriendly or unpleasant, but it was definitely an enforcement kind of issue and a bit of a conflict that had to be dealt with. So, and I would love for people, and I have encouraged several people who I've talked to in the last few days I've said, if you have a question about something, please, I said, don't hesitate to go to City Hall and talk to the people that are there. So they know what's going on and they can help you, and they're always very willing to help. And and this man said to me, "Oh, that's great. How, and he was somewhat surprised. So.
Some people have said or asked me, why would you guys even put yard signs or campaign signs out? There's two of you running for two open positions. And I said, we want to engage the voters. Yeah. We're running, but did you know that there's also an important proposal on the ballot regarding selling property, city property located near the airport? We need the voters to come out and vote on that. So maybe if someone realizes that there's actually an election, they'll pick up that absentee ballot, or they'll maybe come and vote in person. So any means that we can to engage our public, there's important planning commission opportunities next week for the public to come in and see and hear about what planning commission is looking at as far as making some changes in our zoning. That's really important for the public to come see that. And I think, again, it's how to get people engaged in that, though. Certainly, for the master plan, there were a lot of surveys done. That's a way to get people engaged. And get feedback for people that maybe aren't so comfortable coming to meetings. The use of surveys, using technology, pushing things out on the city Facebook page, website, which I think the city does a pretty good job of. I know we have a text feature that's available, but maybe something where it's right at the top of the city website called Talk to Us. All you have to do is just hit that and it immediately goes to city administration or the mayor or whomever is the target of that, just so that people can real quickly, a button, not a text, but a button that they hit Talk to Us. And so I think creating those, it's easy to create the opportunities for the public to get input, but engaging them and coming to those things, that is a challenge. Because these are important issues and people do need to, we want people to be engaged, or at least I do, and I know Kathy does too, so.
Actually, you brought up the airport property, and I was at city council during one of those conversations, and a question for both of you. What do you think should happen? Should that well, what do you think? Should the city hold on to that property or should the city sell that property?
I've gone back and forth on that, to be honest with you. My first thought was, okay, $400,000. You know, that's a nice chunk of change. The city certainly has, you know, certainly we've had elections in villages involving amounts of money similar to that. And it's like, so that's, you know, a nice amount of money to. On the other hand, I started to talk to other people who've been in the community who said this is land, it can never be replaced. You know, do we want to consider the value to the city, even if it can't specifically be used, but could be traded for something else that's maybe closer into the, you know, middle of the city? And I think that's a really reasonable, I think that's a reasonable thought. So at this point, my thought is the city should probably hold on to the property. I know there are issues once that if that happens with renegotiating the lease, et cetera, that will take some time, but that's my thoughts at the moment. I could be convinced otherwise if there's other arguments.
Michael,
Well, I'm one vote out of how many registered voters there are in this community, and I think ultimately it's up to our voters to decide. And you know, that's what that's what the city charters says. Any property valued at over $2,000, 60% of the voters have to approve that sale. Well, we know that the lease is expiring on that property. We know that the city only owns the property. There's a building that is owned by the tenant that sits on that property, and it's murky because that building sits on a portion of that building, actually a small portion of that building sits on city property, and a larger portion of that building sits on county property, who holds a lease with Jervis Webb that doesn't expire for what, another 20 years or something. So it's murky and it's complex. I'm not trying to evade my giving an opinion on it, because I also go back and forth on it. But ultimately, if it doesn't pass, then, you know, the city and Jervis Webb have obviously some dealings that are going to have to occur so we can, you know, determine the result end. I agree that land, city-owned land is precious. And it's something that, you know, my personal opinion, I think is similar to Kathy's. But again, it's ultimately up to the voters. Then as council, if it doesn't pass, then, you know, we, along with, you know, through a very complex process, I'm sure, are going to have to decide what we're going to do and what the current tenant is going to do and come together. So but stay tuned. Please vote. Let's,
please vote. Yes.
if it passes, then we know what's going to happen. It'll go out to bid with the minimum bid being $425,000 with Jervis Webb having the opportunity to match the highest bidder if they so choose.
So if you could change one thing within the city of Harbor Springs? We'll start with Michael. What would that be?
Hmm. That, we'd have beautiful fall-like days every single day. With a few good weeks of skiing thrown in there and some great beach days. You know, that's a really hard question. I love this thing. I haven't really thought about what I would change. I wish too that our feeling of neighborhood would, you know, would feel like there's not so much coming and going. My neighborhood, there's a lot of that, and that's, either, lack of year-long residence. I've always lived in a community that had a lot of year-long residents and in a neighborhood that had a lot of year-long residents. And I really cherished that feeling of knowing everybody so well on your block, and having block parties and things like that. So I think just really bringing a neighborhood feel to our residential areas is important to me. Kids walking to school, being able to walk up the street for play dates. I value that a lot.
Well, that was kind of what I was coming up with, but okay.
You
Yes,
can have the same answer, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with
More better articulated than mine.
I doubt that. Actually, I was counting today or the last couple of days on my street, which is only 2 blocks long. I think there are 16 houses. In the entire 12 years we've lived there, there've only been 3 houses that have had children in them at any one time. And right now there's only 1. And I mean, the few times, it's been fun. Kids came over one year and because there was a little bit of a slope and they put in a ramp and wanted to know if they could ski jump down it in the winter. I'm like, sure. It was great because there were days in the winter that was the only sound you heard outside. Was all of a sudden I go, and so it was right outside my bedroom window. And oh, the kids are here. They're because I hear the thump as they went down the thing. And I thought that was really great. I got to know them a little bit. They got to know me a little bit. But it's difficult when so many of the houses are the rest of the houses mostly are people that live there alone. And families that are here maybe half the year or an occasional weekend. And I'd like to feel a little more of that community feeling as well.
Now, in 27 days from now, we'll probably have about 400 kids at our house, dressed in
See, I
wonderful costumes and stuff because they know Mr. Behrman gives out full-size candy bars.
Wow, you just said that publicly, right? And this is being recorded. Is there an age restriction on that?
Do you need help? Because I don't get any trick-or-treaters on my street.
Isn't that interesting? So actually, do either of you have a question that you would like to put to? Yes, please,
I
Danny.
do have a question kind of along the lines of the last one. One thing that I think is a big priority is to get more young families in Harbor Springs, as you were alluding to. We're getting older and older every year, the average age. And do you think city government, city council has any role in facilitating that? Like through zoning, or there's many communities that actually, I believe Bill knows more about this than I do, that actually participate in finding means to make housing affordable for young families to where they could even afford to live here.
Does it sit? I think yes and no. I think we have it within our power to make our city as family friendly to live here as possible in some regards, with things like parks and recreation programs, library program, even though the city doesn't have a library, we do have one in Harbor Springs, but the city doesn't govern that. But I think again, looking at zoning, are there some things that we can do? And I think the city master plan has some things in there that speak to different types of housing units, and looking at our zoning where we can possibly encourage some of that. And I think, again, working with other entities, we love absolutely young families living within Harbor Springs proper, but I also look at things almost from a school district perspective too. Harbor Springs Public Schools, and I know that the school district encompasses 7 townships in addition to the city. But working with those entities as well, what does their zoning look like? Especially townships that we immediately border to. So the school district, the enrollment is steadily going down. And I attribute that to a great deal to housing and the cost of living for young families. I think there's some things that the city can do to make it more of a young family friendly city. And obviously there's things that we can't do and that are beyond our purview. So I would say yes and no, that there are some things that we can do. There's some things that we can't.
I would agree. I do think there are some things that we can do. Some of the zoning ideas that have been talked about by the Planning Commission and in other meetings have had some really, interesting possibilities in terms of the different housing types and housing sizes. And I wasn't necessarily thinking of it in terms of bringing the young families, but what I would wonder if something we could work on might do would be, as the number of single people living alone in a home, and my house isn't great big, but it's bigger than I need as one person. But how to facilitate moving into, would there be a smaller home opportunity that I could move into, that I would be still in town or in my own neighborhood, then it would, free up a larger house that could house a family of 2 or 3 children, I think. But I think this goes back to, how to coordinate those housing options. I feel like Housing North was working on a lot of these issues. And I think it's important for the city to encourage that. And I like the ideas, some of the zoning changes. I think it's difficult to mandate. That's the tricky part, is how to make this desirable without mandating it, and how to get business people who are interested in this, how to solve this problem, working with nonprofits. And I think that's really important. The house that there was the tour the other day that was done through Heart, and it was Housing North, and I believe some other entities. It's a really great example. And I'd love to see that. I don't know how that could be publicized more, but I'd love to see that kind of thing talked about more. Okay.
Do either of you have any more questions? So, well, here we open it up. Any questions from the back? So as to not keep anybody, is there anything else either one of you wants to make sure people know about you, or your thoughts, or your philosophies, or just anything about you that you want to make sure people know as they do head to the polls? And we do hope that people will go vote. You're right. You are very right, Michael. It's super important that people continue to vote, even though they may think that it doesn't matter. It does. And to pay attention to the different things on the ballot, not just to city council members. But so what would you like others to know about you that we haven't discussed tonight?
Well, as I've mentioned, and I've said, since I am an accountant background, my father was a CPA. I've been a CPA and practiced in public and private accounting for over 40 years. So I'm definitely oriented towards numbers and financial issues. Sitting down and reading the master plan was a real challenge for me, because reading long documents is hard for me. But give me a big, thick financial statement and I'm a happy girl. So I'm hoping that I can use the strengths of my financial background to help the city, not in terms of telling them what to do, but in hopefully being able to explain the city finances to people, because I've had questions, I get them constantly. And I've had people say to me, Kathy, numbers, this will be great. You can really get in there and you can get this. And I don't know that I'm gonna get it. I can get in there and make a big change but at least I want to start with making sure people understand the numbers better and understand the budgets and how the money is spent, and help people understand that they do have some say and some input, but we all have to learn more about it in order to do that. So that's where I think I can help.
Thanks, Kathy.
And I guess throughout my career as a superintendent or principal or even a teacher, I've faced a lot of contentious types of issues, passionate issues. When it comes to people's children, there's nothing no more than that people are passionate about. So I understand that. And I like to think I approach situations with some sort of calmness, at least on the exterior, while the inside of me is, but no, some calmness from a look at an analytical standpoint, take into account all the different perspectives, those that aren't necessarily the ones that I agree with, because it's not about me at the end of the day, and make the best decision. I'm very, I readily admit that, like anybody else, I'm not perfect and I don't know everything and I make mistakes. And I'm sure on city council, I'll probably make some mistakes or change my mind about issues. And you know what? That's okay. That's what human beings do. And sometimes it's good to change your mind because you have now new information or you have a new perspective on things. So I think that's good. Another thing I think it's important is art of compromise. And I think today we just seem so polarized about things. And sometimes getting as close as you can to another person's position without compromising your core beliefs is a good thing. Both people can do that. Sometimes that's not possible, and ultimately someone doesn't like a decision that's made, and I understand that, and that's something that I have to live with. So I think just how I approach issues and so I wouldn't take any of it, nothing for granted. No, I realize it's an awesome responsibility, and being involved at the local level probably is the most impactful level of government that you could be involved in, because it truly does affect people's everyday lives.
Thank you both. We really appreciate you being here this evening, and we will put this out. It'll go in our newsletter, it'll go on social media, the link, so that, and please share, please. We hope that people will watch and maybe they'll learn a little bit more about you and have a wonderful feel about what's happening with City Council. Thank you so very much.
Thank you
We
for
appreciate
doing
it.
this, really appreciate it.
Thank you.